Okay, so we are live. Just give me one moment. Good evening, everyone. Betty Long Poetry here. Thank you for tuning in on They Took My Choice Away Survivor Series. I am celebrating my second annual anniversary of They Took My Choice Away. Thank you to all of those who have tuned in, who supported this broadcast, who catch the replay, who's reposted it on their timelines. I want to say thank you to you. I wanted to take time to really tell you how much I appreciate you. This is a passion of mine. I know a lot of people may not understand it. Some people do, and those who have been through trauma certainly understand. And I often give a safe platform and a safe space for survivors to come on and share their story so that you have, or victims out there or survivors out there are able to see that you can persevere, even being, a victim of either domestic violence or just any type of trauma whatsoever, that you too can overcome your traumas. I'm sorry for any background noise that you guys may be hearing in the background. I do not have my special guest today, Nicki the poet. However, I still think that it was very important to still have the broadcast and and continue the discussion of how to safely exit a domestic violence relationship. Um, those of you who have been following me, you guys know that I have been in a domestic violence relationship. Mine was mostly abusive. It would have been physical had I not exited out. Um, Being in a toxic environment will, in my experience, will definitely get you to act outside of your norm. Sometimes you can get so frustrated that you too can turn around and also be abusive, because you're tired of being abused. So when I started to see that that was the end for, the end of me, where I'm now acting outside of my norm, I decided I was just going to exit out. And I had to do that safely. So I really wanted to extend the conversation. And now that I don't have my guest with me, and keep her in prayer, by the way, because she had to go to the ER. Um, Actually, I'm hoping that you guys will come online as I share some things with you about safely exiting. I think part of the reasons why people stay in relationships, I mean, there are a number of reasons. Um, Sometimes it could be financial, you know, um, but um, why we stay in hurtful, toxic relationships, um, we start, and then, and in return, we start behaving out of our norm. You really have to ask yourselves, are you trading your mental health, right? Are you trading your mental health in order to keep this relationship? When, at any point, do we say enough is enough? Why do we take on so much? Is it the time that we have invested in our relationship? Because I know that was for me the time I invested. I personally didn't want to be alone? Is it because, we don't want to be alone? You know, are we confused that this is love? Because maybe our parents, were in a domestic violence relationship. Maybe it was physical, maybe it was verbal. And that's what you saw, and that's all you know. Um, not wanting to leave us. Like I said, it could be financial. Maybe you're not working because you're taking home, you're home and you're taking care of the kids. Maybe there are kids involved. You know, maybe you see that this person is a provider, and they provide for your kids, and that's what keeps you stuck. You're stuck on the fact that they're such a good provider, but you know in return he's horrible to you, or he or she is horrible to you. Or do we adopt this idea of, what, people aren't perfect. I know he's not perfect, I know she's not perfect, but you know um, understand that they don't have to intentionally hurt you, though. If someone isn't intentionally hurting you, then that's something you might want to visit. That's something you might want to talk to a therapist about, because there's something in you that feels like you have to accept, you know, such behaviors, you know? Um, so when is the right time to exit out of a domestic violence relationship? Well, I say when it's safe to do so, right? And that might look like actually leaving when your partner is not home, or if he's not present, so that you can gather your things, and get out of there in secret. You know, I mean, there could be 50 reasons um, why it would be difficult for you to leave, right? But I think sometimes we also stay is just because we're numb. We are numb, and we've desensitized, anything that has to do with our relationship in order to keep it. So you're kind of self sabotaging. I know for me, I self sabotaged all the time. I was thinking of reasons all the time of why I should stay. And the two major reasons why I stayed in my relationship is it wasn't financial, because he wasn't providing at all. When I realized, he was just living off of me, um, I, w- I think I was just, like I said, I was just numb. And I'm like, I put myself, second baby daddy now, who's going to want me now. That was my whole thinking. I remember sharing that memory. And while I was going through it with a cousin of mine, like, who's gonna want me now? Who's gonna want me three kids later? Who's gonna want me now? I didn't want to be alone, and I didn't want to be labeled as, um, a single mom without help, without a father. I didn't I didn't want that to be I didn't want that to be you know didn't want to be alone because of that. I was afraid of being alone. And so now that I am single, I realize how much peace I have. Um, Not only because I went through what I went through and got through it, right? But there is peace and solitude. There is peace. I don't have to be consumed by someone else's opinions of me, especially when they've always been very negative. Um, I don't have to deal with that. I I love I love my singleness. Now, do I want to be remarried? Absolutely. I do. Um, but in God's timing, of course. And of course I'd be, I'm gonna vet the mess out of the next person that wants to take a crack at this. So I am only here really to just show my support in this journey that you might be experiencing. And what I have done here today was I looked to see what is the support system that they have out there for you in order for you to exit out safely. And I came across the domestic violence, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and they have created a safe plan created a safe plan guide for people who um, couldn't even think about a plan. I just love that they did this. So I really want to go over this with you guys today. Thank you, Robert, for joining in. I appreciate that. Listen, listen. I'm going to go over this guide with you guys. I think it's amazing. It first it asks, with whom do you live with, and then it goes on with what is your zip code, because this is going to help them find resources in your community. um, they even ask questions like, what school do you attend? Is it middle school? Right? It's not prejudiced. It's all the way to kids who are in domestic violence relationships. We don't even realize that kids in middle school are interacting with other. They have partners too. They have boyfriends and girlfriends too, and so they're even making it available for middle school students, high school, college, and if you're not in school. And then it goes on to say, do you have a job? Do you have children, or are you currently pregnant? They want to know how you identify as, email addresses. You know, this is all for the sake of a guide to safe planning and exiting. And then they ask questions like, have you told someone in your family about your relationship? What word or phrase can you use as a code in a phone call or a text, even an emoji, or instant messaging to ask your family and friends or neighbors to call for help without having or without alerting your partner. um, During times when you're home alone, who can stay with you if you don't want to be alone? These are all questions that you can type in this guide, right? So what you want to do is write this person's phone number in your emergency card and keep it in your wallet or in a safe place. This way that you can be reached, or you can reach your family and friends even when you do not have your cell phone. So how many times can you say that you don't really know anybody's phone number, let alone your phone number sometimes? So this would be a great way for you to, all right, so this is the steps that I need to take on wanting to exit out. So let me start writing phone numbers down on some sort of card, some sort of emergency phone list, and you want to be able to safely put it away in a space that, in case you need it for an emergency. And if you're not comfortable being at home, where else can you stay to be safe? If you need to leave your home in an emergency, what is the safe public place where you could go? I mean, these are all well out thought questions, thought out. And the things that you are going to need if you have to leave your house quickly, and it's a checklist. They have identifications, cell phone, your charger, medications, extra cash, an extra ATM card, house keys, car keys, a change of clothes, comfort items. If you have a favorite stuffed animal or a blanket or a picture, baby supplies if you have a child, copy of your protection restraining order if you have PRO, excuse me, and then your child's birth certificates, your health insurance cards, anything else listed above. You know, um, do you have a protection order? Make sure you have a copy of that. Just don't keep the one copy. When I had a protection order, I had it in my car. I had it in my locker at work, in case he decided to show up at work, things like that. Um, Again, thought out, real thought out questions. Um, if you need to avoid seeing your partner on your way to and from class or from work, is there a safer route that you can take to avoid him or her? And then have you told someone on campus? This is people who are going to school, is there, whom can you spend time with, between classes, so that you're not alone. And if you need to leave school immediately, again, the questions again, whom can you call or pick up to meet you? These are all things that a lot of times when I was even thinking about exiting out, how was I going to do this safely? That was the biggest thing. You need to have a support system in place. But in case that you don't, the National Domestic Violence Hotline has created, for those of you who are tuning in, a safety guide on exiting. And that's what I'm going through right now. And if you want to avoid seeing your partners, again, what are the different routes that you can take? Have you told anyone at work about your relationships? Does your partner work at the same place as you? You know, if you need to leave work immediately, again, who can you call? Who can pick you up? Who can meet you? And these are all places that should be well lit, that are like where there's a lot of people present, you know. Again, we're talking about safely exiting out. Um, you might want to think about having a burner phone, a second burner phone in case your partner happens to break your phone. You need to have it already equipped with all the phone numbers that you want to write on a card, but also in the burner phone. These are well thought out questions. You know, Questions like, has your partner ever checked your outgoing calls, your text messages, your browser history on your cell phone or computer? Does he or she check your social media networking sites? These are all things that you should know, and be aware of and stay away from if you're exiting. Has your partner ever sent you abusive email or text messaging or voicemails? These are things that you want to keep as proof, that that you're being harassed, or that you know, you're being stalked. Have you shared passwords to your online accounts with your partner? These are things you want to start the day that, I guess, when you exit, because sometimes, you can be in these relationships where it's very controlling and your partner wants access to your social media. So when you're getting ready to exit, these are things that you might have to consider, either shutting down, deleting them, or changing the passwords to them. But if he has access, or he or she has access to be able to go back in to change them to a password that they're able to get back in, you might as well just try to stay away from social media, because if you're not careful, it could track anytime that you post, where you're posting from, and things like that. So you need to be very careful. And has your partner ever pretended to be online? Now, I want to stop right there. Um, my ex-partner was checking my social media. He even impersonated me one time. Not impersonated me, but impersonated my father, to pay a bill. Now, this, I know you're probably like, what are you talking about? Like, why would somebody do that? But he did. He paid a bill, not his bill, one of my bills, a bill that I had no intentions of paying anytime soon, because I was on I was on maternity leave. And I don't know. I can't even. I've never gotten a straight up answer as to why he would do something like that. But of course, he didn't admit to it. I've I don't know what kind of thinking he was in, but a lot of times they're not thinking. They're just trying to hurt you. They're trying to hurt you in ways, unthinkable ways of just trying to hurt you. Like it made no sense. It makes no sense. Um, but again, the topic is how to exit out safely. When you have somebody that's just all over the place and you don't know, what you're dealing with from one thing to the next, chances are they're abusing some sort of substance, where it just doesn't make any sense. In my case, he was heavily in cocaine. Um, Things I didn't find out until, towards the end of the relationship, which is one of the reasons why it ended, because it was becoming way too unsafe, and I was being stalked at work. It wasn't pleasant at all. Um, I even had a district manager have to get on the phone with him and tell him, I'm like, do you want her to lose her job because of the way that you're harassing her? She had a 20-minute conversation with him. And of course, I wasn't in danger of losing my job. But I mean, imagine other people who may have, had that happen to them where they lost jobs because their partner kept calling the job obsessively. It's not a good feeling. It's not a safe feeling. Um, so let's continue on with this guide. It's always asking, who could you call, who could you text, and also putting the emergency information down. I say have it in a safe place, but also have it with the person that you trust most. Make sure that they have a copy of your safety plan. Maybe this might be something that you can do with them so that they know exactly where your head is at, without having to speculate or to assume, you know. If you were stranded and needed a ride home, whom can you call? I can remember a situation where I was literally kicked out of the car and I was stranded. I had no cell phone, I had nothing, and it just so happened that somebody who knew me, I knew them, was like, hey, you need a ride? And I'm like, yes, and I ended up getting home that day, but that was the grace of God, you know? Um, yeah. So, were you stranded in a home? Okay. So, again, it starts to ask questions like, oh, you know, this is more for the partner, but, you know, um, it says, who could you call or hold on one second. I think I'm over. Okay. And then what word or word phrases can you use as a code on a phone call? I know we've covered that already. And if you decide to end your relationship, where can you do it safely? Yeah. And we already went over that. Where can you do this safely? So always be thinking of that. And who can you call afterwards? That's like that's like the biggest, like, I wish when I did this, when I finally left, I mean, I left everything, guys. I left my whole apartment, my 3 kids in my minivan. I packed out as much as I could take with me, all of their clothes, most of their belongings. Um, and I left. I left. I had to do it when he wasn't there. Um, but I had nobody to talk to. Even though I went to go live with my dad, it was like I still didn't have anybody to really talk to about it. It was just, I'm just glad I had, a room for me and my 3 kids, for me to, to stay. And I was away. I was away from that dreadful situation. Um, yeah, I kind of wish I had somebody to talk to, you know. Um, get yourself some good friends. You don't have to have many, you know. But I pray and I hope that if you're in a dreadful situation and it's an unsafe situation, you can text start, right, to number 88788. That number is 88788. And this safety guide will download to your phone. You can call 1-800-799-SAFE. It's 1-800-799-7233, the word safe. And you can talk to a live person that can help you with this safety guide. I think this was a wonderful way to create a safety plan. They even have um, up at the top warning you, like, hey, you know, understand that by you going through the safety plan, that it's going to be in your web browser. It even shows you how to erase it from your web browser. I mean, they have really thought of everything, everything to um, how to exit safely. Whew, I know that was a lot. Um, but is there any questions out there for anyone? Um, or even just a statement, just maybe you've been through a domestic violence relationship and it was just really hard to get out of. Relationship and I didn't realize it was going to make that. Sorry, guys. Um, but I do thank you for tuning in. I think if anything was to come out of this broadcast today, it was just to let you know that you're not alone. You don't have to be alone. And if you don't have anybody, um, there are resources for you. There are resources for you online, resources for you with the domestic violence hotline. Just know that I know it's scary, and sometimes you have to do things afraid, especially if your life is at risk, especially if your children's life are at risks. Um, my story wasn't that my kids were being abused, when I was in this toxic relationship. Um, he was more of, it was weird because I had my son with him, and then he wanted to raise, one daughter, but the other daughter he despised. And I really didn't, or he treated differently. So I really didn't see it because I was in this, um, I was self-medicating with alcohol. And this is one of the very reasons why I will not touch alcohol to this day. I've been free from alcohol for, I don't know, about 25 years now, 20, 23 years, 24 years, 24 years now. When I decided to quit cold turkey, and I believe God helped me through that. I feel like when you've had enough and when you have the will, you do exactly what you say you're going to do. And I never touched alcohol. I never touched, marijuana anymore. I didn't, I stopped playing with influences because I realized I was missing out on what was going on with my oldest daughter. And I didn't realize how he was treating her differently, and I don't really know why. I really don't know why. But here I am. I've left this man to, while I was at work, to watch my kids. And so um, when I realized how he was mistreating my oldest, I I realized I missed it. I missed a lot of it because I was under influences, and I can go on and on about the reasons why. I just didn't want to uh, understand that I would work a 10-hour day, right? And then I'd have to come home to being ridiculed and be called a whore and all of that. So I drank. I drank my sorrows. I was going to stay in this relationship because I didn't want to be alone, as I was trying to share with you before. And I did a lot of things, um, partly maybe because I was young, you know what I mean? And I just didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't have, nobody really has a book on, well, at the time that I was growing up, on having a healthy relationship. I didn't know what that looks like. So I had a lot of toxic things happen to me in my childhood, and I wanted to drink it away, and that's what I did. So it's part of the reason why I don't touch alcohol or anything like that. Yes, I can sit at a bar, eat at a bar, and not have anything to drink. Um, I just don't. It's not good for you. It's not good for your health anyway. But try to do the safe planning without any influences. Try to be rent free in your, like in your mental state. Try to live in a state of mind that your life is precious, right? Continue to push towards whatever goal it is that you have. And if financially right now it's a problem and you feel like you cannot, escape the financial stability right now, then see if there's a place you can go, or a friend's house that you could stay. I had a best friend that offered her home temporarily until I got back on my feet, but I wanted to be further away. She lived in the same, city as I lived in, and I didn't think it was far enough away. Um, I did have to eventually choose my exit, but I had to do it. I did it with planning. I did it safely, and that is all we're going to do or talk about today. That really concludes my story. Those of you who know that I do have a piece on, it's called Sleeping with the Enemy. I didn't have any plans to actually recite it, so if I could try to pull it up, I will. And maybe I'll recite it. Thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you do share. There was some helpful information for people who might be in a domestic violence situation and they're looking to, exit. For those of you who are tuning in or catching the replay. But I'll leave the live to see if there's any questions or any statements that people want to say. Is there anything? Thank you, Stephen, for joining. Appreciate you guys. I think I have it. Maybe I'll leave you guys with a piece. Give me 1 second while I try to pull it up for you guys. Oh, I need my glasses. Hey, Mama Sharon. How you doing? Yes, I got the piece, guys. So I chose to call this piece Sleeping with the Enemy because in all actuality, he was my partner, was my enemy. He wasn't in my corner. He wasn't trying to, add to me. He was trying to take away from me. I mean, this guy, this partner, he even stole my child support checks. Yeah. He stole all of our gold jewelry, and all my children were all decked out with jewelry. He stole all of our gold. I was working at a Pearson Pagoda, Plum Gold, that company there, and I had lots of jewelry that I had obtained over the years of working there, and he stole everything. Later, I found out it was to pawn it, to get money for it. And I never understood that because this guy had a job that he didn't want to help me pay half the rent because the excuse was he wasn't on the lease, but he lived there. Let's be wise in the relationships that we choose. Let's vet these partners and make sure that they are who they say they are. They are going to be partners, not roommates, and especially not roommates that are that aren't going to have your best interest in mind. Um, all right, guys. So I'll close out with this. Okay. Sleeping with the enemy. I was tired of being manipulated, doing what you wanted me to do, isolating me from my family and friends, all because I chose you. I was tired of being ridiculed over and over just because I wasn't like you. I hated the many times you used to invoke your violent words just to break me. You said that I was worthless, Finished, washed up goods, a harlot and a whore, with 2 baby daddies, but yet you were one of them. Professing how no one would want me now, that you were the best I would ever have. And there would be many nights that your demons would come out and flex, and I could be sleeping in our bed and still be accused of cheating. And as our son grew inside, I can remember very vividly how much I hated being pregnant, how much I didn't want this child, let alone it be your child, knowing I had made the biggest mistake of allowing insecurities to get in the way, as if my biological clock was dying, believing all of the things that you said that were killing me slowly instead, to the point of wanting to be dead. Needing influences just to make it through the day. I hated every day that I saw your face, and every time I opened my eyes, your presence would vex the deepest part of my core, cut so deep, nearly bled to death. My heart was weak, and all I wanted to do was make it stop. I was fighting different levels of depression, trying to sleep through the days because you didn't allow me to sleep. Your words were like this demonic, devastating muse you tried to call picture perfect, fighting battles within myself, wondering if I could ever love our son when I didn't even love myself. I hated the time on the thoughts of sleeping with you, sleeping with the enemy just to trick that temperament of yours. And I never did enjoy it. I never told a soul, but after all, I chose this fold, stubborn, refused to want to be lonely, knowing I would never be happy, stubborn at the fact that I was fat, convinced of that. So I settled, allowing you back and forth at least 5 or 6 times. And each time you said you were going to be fine. Each time you said you weren't going to do this again to me this time. After all, it wasn't physically harming me, making excuses. It could be worse. He could be trying to kill me. I can deal with words. After all, they're just words. But these words were pushing me and driving me to drink. And every day, more and more, I had to drink. And every day, I needed to treat this disease that was crippling me, while every day was worse than the next day, and nothing helped. These words cut deep into my bone, and they weren't marrow to my bone. And there were many times I soaked up my sheets with bloody tears that left stains on the side that I was supposed to sleep. I almost dismissed your silent hate treatment towards my oldest daughter, who was 8, all because of this influence I was under. That I had a praying mother that kept praying for me and encouraging me until the day arrived that I made up in my mind that I was going to leave all of this foolishness behind. And it didn't matter that everything was in my name. I was willing to lose it all in the name of love, loving myself in order to quiet the voices that were trying to breach my soul. That glimpse of hope that was just the push that I needed to cleanse my wretched soul. I then realized that I obtained the power that was Samson bold. You see, God will always open up doors that no man will be able to close. Why? For our redemption. You ask me, how can I be the righteousness of God? The moment that I turn towards Elohim, the creator, and realize that I am nothing without him, I was my own worst enemy, believing things that were never intended for me, choosing now a path that was always destined to me and destined for me. And I'm free. I'm no longer sleeping with the enemy. I'm free. And I pray that for your will to be free. Thank you, guys. I shall see you on Wednesday with special guest and survivor Talik Monroe. Bye.